Hey, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the ActionCAST. Incredible day ahead of us. We are talking about one of my favorite subjects, client lead conversions. Kind of how you create this client journey that just really is irresistible. I'm Clint Nobles, operational methodologist, and here on the ActionCast, we give you action-packed information that you can take and make incredible changes, real changes in your agency right now. Welcome to everybody joining in. We have people flooding on. Today's guest is Kire Madsen. He is the VP of Customer Success at Home Care Pulse. And if there's anybody that understands customer satisfaction and customer success, it's Home Care Pulse. They're amazing over there, one of our partners of Home Care Ops. Kire, thank you so much for coming on today. Really, it's incredible. Thank you for being
Oh,
here.
thanks, Clint, for having me on. This is so exciting. I love watching the Action Cast, and the feedback and the information that you guys share is amazing. So much fun to be here.
Oh, it's great because it is a live broadcast. And as always, make sure to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. Authorize your Facebook account. It's just a one-click thing, and we can see who you are when you comment. It's incredible, and we get to throw it up there on the screen. So make sure to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. All right, so Kire, today we are talking about client lead conversions. Now, in home care, and just like every business, client conversions is a major element. Like when
Yes.
I come into home care, and as most everybody knows, I didn't come from a home care background. And when I come into home care, everybody was talking about, man, you have to nail your assessment. It's at the assessment when everything happens, when it all comes together. You got to do your close at the assessment. Man, I studied it and I researched it. But what I come to understand, and I want to get your take on this,
Yeah.
what it really is when it comes to client conversions, it's not really about the assessment because those conversions happen and should happen long before that assessment ever takes place. Something that we teach our action leaders in the action leader experience is that experience versus acquisition. So don't just look at the acquisition of a client, but instead understand that that lead conversion starts from the first time they are introduced to your agency. It isn't about the closing that estimate, that assessment. It's about consistently engaging that client. And this is something that you actually mentioned to me when we were doing our pre-show talk, and I'd love to get your input on this because you talked about how this brand awareness element, this conversion really happens long before you sit down with that assessment. So tell us a little bit more about that. Unpack that a little bit for us.
Yeah. So you really think about every customer's journey, right? And the process that they go through. They actually, there's a reason they're sitting down at that client assessment with you. And your conversion at that point is actually, I mean, you can take specific metrics from, I'm a data driven guy. I love data. And you can look at close rates and different things like that, but those are lagging indicators of what's already happened, right?
I love
That
that.
is,
Lagging indicators. I
yeah.
love that.
So your brand experience, your customer's journey has started the first time that they heard about your agency. It happened when they saw a social media post. It happened when they talked to their best friend and they recommended you or didn't recommend you, and yet you somehow got a phone call, right? That's where your customer journey starts. And Clint, we talked earlier. If you recommend a company to me, and if for a service that I'm looking for, the likelihood that I'm going to sign up with that company is very, very high. And
Hmm.
this is not just home care; it's all businesses. I'm building a house right now, and
Good luck.
yeah, exactly, building prices, lumber prices. But when a person I trust and respect says, "Hey, I really like this person," guess what? Even if they're a couple $1,000s more expensive for the job, I'm still using that person because I know I've got a referral. It's a quality referral, and I know they're going to do a good job. And that's
Yeah.
really where that lead conversion starts. So you're at the assessment, And I don't get me wrong, I still think you need to measure that data point, right? I still think you need to measure everything all the way through. But if you can do things before that, if your brand is squared away and it's consistently, your messaging is consistent, you're going to have a lot better time converting those at the time of the assessment.
Yeah, something we teach in the Action Leader experience is kind of a doctrine we call to get the yes before you assess. Who doesn't love a good alliteration, right? So good
Right?
rhyming is always fun. But get that yes before you assess. And one of the ways that we did that, because I dug into this, and I didn't have the fancy terminology like you do, which is so perfect, and I'm going to use from now on, which is called lagging indicators of things that have already taken place. I love that. But we were digging into this assessment portion, trying to understand really what's happening. And we realized, man, we really need to get commitment before we actually go into that assessment. That assessment needs to just be the warm, fuzzy feeling of this is when our care is starting. So we created something called the pre-care assessment. And man, it was a game changer for us. We have action leaders right now that have really started utilizing this pre-care assessment, and one person's conversion rate went up to 98%.
Wow.
One person, one of our action leaders just messaged the other day and said they started using this, and they sent out 5 of them, and all 5 turned into clients.
Yeah.
And because you're getting all that stuff out of the way before you go in, so you can focus on that connection, which is so important.
It's about
And
that experience that you're creating with them. And
it
wow.
is. It is crazy, and everybody's saying hello, Jamie, Clinton. I always have to throw Clint. He's a great friend of mine.
That's awesome.
Him and his wife have a great place out in Texas. Um, Jeannie, man, thank y'all so much for joining us. We've had a ton of people hop on. So for all of you just joining us, we're talking about lead conversions today with Kire Madsen, VP of Customer Service at Home Care Pulse. So Kire, let's dig into this.
Okay, let's do it.
How can a home care owner craft an irresistible client experience? What are kind of the fundamental elements to you in this client experience?
So first and foremost, we talked recently, or just barely, about the importance of having the touch points before even the assessment. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's understanding that your customers are on a journey. And I think that's one of the most recent, the most incredible tools you can do. So if you haven't created a customer journey map for your customers, you need to do that. And Clint, we've got an example on our website that you're more than welcome to use. It's a free resource that you can download. But really, people ask, well, what is a customer journey? A customer journey is mapping out what your customers are doing and feeling at any given point in time as they go through that. And I think the feeling piece of that is what most of us miss.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what we want to do, right? Here's what the steps that they're taking. But if you can put the emotions that what they're going through along with that, then the idea of what you're doing is you're creating a journey that highlights the customer friction and pain points. And if you can then remove those through a process and a system, then you've got a incredible customer journey and experience that your customers, you're creating your brand, you're creating the awareness, and you're creating the message that people will share because it's the same experience day in and day out.
I love that. It's so absolutely true. And let's unpack this just a little bit
Yeah.
because in the world of home care, we are so passion driven and we are so purpose based in what we
Mm-hmm.
do, and we feel like everything that we do is connected to the very essence of who we are, and it should be, and it that really makes for a consistent culture within your brand if you understand that. However, let's unpack this a little bit because I don't think a lot of people have heard of the term journey map or
Mm.
your customer journey map. So,
Yeah.
number one, what is a customer journey map? And then what are the steps needed to create this journey map?
Okay, great. So, like I said, to me, the easiest way to describe it is what your customers are doing and feeling at any given time, right? So, literally on a piece of paper, a whiteboard, whatever you want to put it down. And I'd suggest once you get that done and you kind of refine it, putting it in a place some more permanent than just a whiteboard or a sticky note. But what are the steps that everyone's going to take? So you have to really kind of put yourself in their shoes, right? What are they feeling? What are they doing? what would you feel as you went through that exact same process? And there's really kind of four key focuses in a customer journey map that I would highlight. The one is the first impression, which is what is their initial experience with your agency. The second one is the first value. So this is where you're trying to install confidence. And I kind of, from what you were talking about with your pre-assessment, right?
Yeah.
That fits right in there.
Yeah.
That's a perfect step in your customer journey map, because when you get to that first value and you're instilling confidence, you know the things you need to talk about. You know the things that they're most concerned about, and you can alleviate those fears. And that's where you're kind of saying, hey, this is what you're going to get. And here's what you're expecting, and this is what we're going to deliver to you. The third thing there is the intended value. And this is what we would call like the derived outcome. And that's where they actually got what they expected.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're actually delivering on the promises that you gave them. And I would never overlook the fact that in the customer success journey, delivering on exactly what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's that simple, just
And,
delivering on what you say you're going to do. And then the last one is the extended value. And this is where you go above and beyond. This is where you can create those little wow experiences. You're exceeding all their expectations. And that's when you get a customer that really turns into a promoter.
mm-hmm.
And a promoter is someone who's willing to talk good about your business, to refer people to you. And a great way to know if you have a promoter is if they've actually referred somebody to your business.
Yeah, that's a great benchmark. Like that's when you know that that person is promoting you. And friend of the ActionCAST here, Daniel McGuire, he said, finally, someone who focuses on the emotional journey of home care. This erases the fear of the client, and they value the service instantly. Um,
Yes.
it absolutely true. It really is about understanding kind of the flow. And that's what this journey map
Mm.
helps us
Yeah.
understand. We do this, we teach our action leaders this in a step we call our post ops party. And
Right.
for those of you who have been a part of our post ops party before, put in the comments if you've been a part of our post ops. I know we have a lot of action leaders on here right now. Throw in the comments. Let us know about your post ops party. Heck, if you have a picture, put it in there. It's fantastic. Because what we do is we teach people how to take and really create operational structure to their businesses in 30 minutes.
Mm.
And we do it with post-it notes. I mean, God, good Lord, Jessica is like the queen of dry erase boards and post-it notes. As a matter of fact, I think right here that she's manning the thing, and she's like, I love dry erase boards. Um, but we teach them how to do this in 30 minutes. And really, what they're doing, what this post ops party is you're creating journey maps for
Mm.
each element of your business. And it's so, so good what you're talking about because and I want to dig into this just a little bit because really for everybody just joining us and coming on, I mean we got thumbs up and hearts and all kind of stuff, whatever Facebook emojis are out there seem to be like popping up right now. So this is really resonating with people, and I want to dig into this a little bit because if we can, as business owners, not just home care owners, but if we as
Mm.
business owners can really understand these four elements to a customer journey, our business can change from the foundation, and that's what will make it so strong. And understanding that first impression, what you're doing, how are they coming to you, what is their first impression of you,
Yeah.
and then secondly, how are you building that value? What's the first value that they see that you're delivering? And I love how you put this in first, intended, extended, right? Because in the actually your experience, we talk about this in touch points, right? What you're talking about, those first impressions is touch points.
Yes, exactly.
Where is your engagement elements at? Right? And then where are you building that value? Where are you building that authority at? And we use collaborative marketing a lot with that. And it's fantastic to do because you can really bring a lot of authority to your space because of the hard work that another person has already accomplished. And that's fantastic. And then the last element here, the intended value obviously is delivery. And that's what we call it in the action leader experience, that delivery point.
Perfect.
Because building trust Everybody talks about building trust as being super hard. It takes forever. It doesn't.
No.
Trust, it really doesn't. It's about delivering on small promises consistently over and over. Hey, I'm going to email you this, and then that email happens. Hey, within 24 hours, this will happen. Within 24 hours, it happens, right? You're building on those
Yes.
small promises. And then the last thing you talk about is extended value. And action leaders will know this term as evangelists. What we
Okay.
call, I'm the son of a Pentecostal preacher, so it all comes back to
Yes, it
that for
does.
me. But it's we talk about it in being an evangelist. That's somebody who believes in who you are, what you're about, and most importantly, what you deliver.
Yes.
And the most important evangelist that you can have in your business is your team and your clients.
100% agree. If your team does not buy into your vision, I mean, really, they're there for a paycheck, and they're not going to be a brand promoter for you.
Yeah.
And so, and if you can get your clients, that's where, I mean, that's where exponential growth starts to happen, because you're delivering on a brand, you're delivering on your promises. You're somebody they can trust, and really, what it comes down to, Clint, is you're delivering on what you say you're going to do. You're
Hmm.
literally, I don't know anybody who doesn't say, I'm going to make this promise and I'm not going to deliver. I'm never planning on delivering it. Right. But really, what it comes down to is you either make it easy for them or you don't.
Hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
so you're either a hassle to deal with or you're not.
Or you're not. God, I love that. So good. You can tell why you're the vice president of customer success. Like you really have an incredible grasp of the simplicity that is in the customer journey.
Right.
And a lot of times we overcomplicate it and we try to
Yes.
overcomplicate it. And that brings us to our next question here, as we're going to dive into that negative impression, that
Mm,
negative
yes.
perception. So, for all of you joining us on the ActionCast today, incredible content. Make sure, if this is the first time you've tuned in right now today, make sure when this is over, you go back and you listen to the first portion of this, because there is some incredible, actionable content that will revolutionize your lead conversions, your client lead conversions. Today, we have Kire Madsen, VP of Customer Success from Home Care Pulse. And Kyer, how can we respond to a negative client satisfaction survey? We've all had them, right?
Yes,
We all have
absolutely.
negative reviews from time to time. Maybe you send out your internal satisfaction. I know Home Care Pulse, y'all are the king of customer and client satisfaction surveys. So tell me about this. How can we respond to these in a productive and profitable way?
And I like the idea of profitable, right? Because, like you said, everybody's going to have some negative feedback, and that's because we deal with humans. And as much as we craft our customer journey to meet certain expectations, we're also crafting it for who we are and who our brand is. And we can't be all things to all people all the time, because it will drive you insane trying to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So once you figure out who you are as a company, what you're trying to offer, your purpose, cause, passion, and putting that into place, understand that there's going to be some clients that don't fit your need, and you're going to have to cut them loose
Yeah.
at some point, right? You don't want to keep dragging detractors through your experience that they don't want to be dragged through. And you may have to let some customers go. Now, I'm not saying that's the case for everyone, right? And I'm not saying every time you get a bad review, it's a bad customer fit, and so you need to cut them loose. That's not what I'm saying. So let's go back to a good customer fit that gives you uh, a bad service score, right? One, you have to understand what happened during that. And so that starts with listening, right? You have to listen. And so Home Care Pulse, we measure satisfaction. We're going to give you comments. But in all reality, that's where the satisfaction management process starts. That's where you're going to be able to take action and figure out what were the details that happened to create that experience. Because somebody says something to you, Clint, and they say it to me, our life experiences are going to allow us to take that feedback differently. Our life experiences craft how we perceive things. And so what someone says to you that might be negative may be positive to me, just regionally, culturally, and our upbringing. So first and foremost, listen. I think it was Stephen Covey seek first to understand and then
Hmm.
to be understood,
Yeah.
right? You can't make judgments. So first, listen. Second, provide them a way to express those frustrations to somebody who actually is listening. You don't want them on social media doing
Yeah.
this, right? That is a brand killer. If you want your first impressions to be right, find a way for your customers who have a negative experience to get that out before it hits social media or the media outlets, Google, Facebook, etc. When we discover something great, typically we want to tell others because it's a reflection of the good things that we know or the knowledge and understanding we have. When somebody gets a bad experience, they're going to go and try and tell others because they're looking for sympathy. They want
Hmm.
others to commiserate a little bit with them because this bad experience happened. So if you can provide a way for them to voice that frustration in a way they feel like they're being heard and then it gets addressed, 9 times out of 10, that in and of itself is going to take care of it. Because I'll give you a couple of experiences here at Home Care Pulse. People would get a negative score and they're like, Kyra, I don't know what to do with that score. I've done everything I can do to help this person. And I'll share the experience that Aaron Markham shared when he started Home Care Pulse originally. He had a customer that kept running caregivers off. He could not make them happy. They couldn't figure out why this was happening. Every time he talked to the client, they would say, no, things are great. Life's good. So he hired a third party company to come in. They conducted a survey. It turned out that a couple of things she wanted different. She didn't like the way they vacuumed her carpet. Back in those days, it was probably some shag and it had to go the right way just to make everything work. Right? She didn't like the fact that they didn't iron her sheets before they made their bed. And she didn't like the way they cooked their eggs.
Hmm.
So Aaron was able to get this feedback, put some items into place. That customer then referred over the next several years $500,000 worth of business to Aaron.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
communication.
Oh my gosh. That's so true. And I love what you said. Customer satisfaction starts by listening. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is so true. And in our own home care agency, because, just like all of you out there watching right now, Jessica and I, we currently own and operate a home care agency across, several different states. And we have had to understand, we've learned the hard way, not all money is good money, right?
Yep.
So sometimes you need to make that, that business mature decision, as Jessica likes to talk about it,
Yeah.
and really, cut that off and okay, this is where we need to part our ways. We've learned that, but also we've understood the value of getting it wrong,
Yes.
understanding, and we'll reach out because we do exit interviews, we do customer surveys after every client, whether it was a great experience, bad experience, doesn't matter. It's all part of the system. And twice a year, I or my team now reaches out to those that had really rough experiences. And, we invite them in to come talk to us about it if it wasn't resolved back then when they established this. And we learn from them and we ask
I
them,
love
look,
it.
we want you to tell us what could we have done better and how could we have handled that better. And we validate their opinion and their point of view. And this goes back to something that you and I were talking about pre-show, and I want to bring this in. And I'm not necessarily talking about the barbecue element because we talked about barbecue before the show too.
Yes, we should.
Um, so one of our master operators come by and visit us, and we had time, and they brought me like this huge gift basket. It was awesome. But almost all of it was like barbecue stuff. So I have like these, Razorback tongs and all this stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's fantastic. But something I want to talk about here is perception,
Mm,
right? Perception. We always refer to perception as perception becomes reality. That is at
yes.
some point someone's perception becomes the reality. Back in my past work experience, where I would go into all these other companies and and I'm an operational methodologist, so I'd build all these systems and everything. I created something that I called the bathroom doctrine. And what that means is if somebody goes into a restaurant or a business, it doesn't matter what it is, and the business is super clean, super friendly, it's awesome, but they go into the bathroom and the corner of the bathroom is dirty. It's nasty, it's not kept. then their perception is that the rest of the unseen places are that way too.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if in reality, right, you're super clean because their perception says that it's not. So
Exactly.
we deal with this a lot in home care because a lot of times we allow the need to be the dominant factor in placing care providers, in choosing clients, in marketing. Need. We match our care providers. We supply the need. We take care of your care needs, right? The truth is, need is a horrible evaluator. And if we allow need to be the thing that
Mhm.
determines how our operations flow or how our customer journey map is built, then when that need is altered or the perception of that need is altered, then all of a sudden the parameters change for what is acceptable, unacceptable.
Correct.
So what we teach our master operators, when I really dig into our master operators and we start changing a lot of things, is we start understanding and focusing on creating a way to mold perception. Because as difficult as perception is to handle, as rough as it is to handle, it's also an amazing function and characteristic of the human psyche because perception is malleable. We can
Yes.
mold it, right? So in this journey map, what are some ways that as business owners we can really start building in these perception molding elements? Where can we look and say, hey, this is something that we really, really can help alter someone's perception if it's of a negative or not conducive to, the close?
A couple of things you've already talked about, right? One is you have to consistently communicate what you want perception to be. That is marketing. That is brand awareness. That is you're consistently stating the reality of what you want people to believe about it. And then two, you actually have to follow up and deliver them. Going back to the bathroom example, right? I think you go into those bathrooms and typically now you're starting to see checklists. This bathroom was last checked by this person on this date, right? Or this
Yeah.
hour. And sometimes they have hours on there, like every hour we're checking the bathroom because they are doing exactly what you're talking about, Clint. They're trying to relieve the perception because if the bathroom's dirty, the rest of the business, regardless how clean it is a facade. It's a fake,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so they have people that are supposed to go and check. Now, here's where the perception becomes reality is a problem. Is if I hit this gas station and it's dirty and it says it was checked 10 minutes ago, I don't buy what you're selling,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is
Yeah.
not reality for me because the perception is 10 minutes ago you said this thing was clean. Somebody's just check marking a box or going through the motions. But if I go in and it's clean and it says it was checked 10 minutes ago, it's clean. The rest of the business checks out. And
Mm-hmm.
so, how do you get your customer journey map to actually align with the services that you're delivering? And it comes down to communication and then consistently measuring that satisfaction and measuring accountability for what you say.
I
And,
love it.
and accountability is a tough word, right? Because people use it in so many different aspects of life, and it's
Man,
it's
you're
it's
going to get me
hard.
started. Like you are going to get me started because we teach. I teach in our action leader experience. One of the main things I teach is that accountability is supportive. It is
Mhm.
never aggressive.
Yes,
Yet we utilize accountability so much as an aggressive tactic.
and I'm guilty
We
of that at times.
Oh, amen. All of us are, right? Oh,
Same.
I'm going to set this accountability measure. I'll be back next week to see what you've got done, right? And then in secretly we think, all right, so when I come back and they haven't got it done, then I'm really going to lay the law down and they're going to know I mean business, right? Well, they should know you mean business back when you said it the first time. It
Yeah.
shouldn't take, my dad used to tell me that if I have to shout to get somebody to do something, now listen to this. It's really good out there. Okay, listen to this. If I have to shout to get somebody to listen to what I'm saying, then my words are weighted with the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I
That's
love that,
powerful.
isn't
That's
it?
powerful.
And so, how can we create that consistency is by understanding that accountability is supportive. These measures, when we're creating this journey map of our clients, and I like that. The value of getting it wrong allows us to reevaluate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what this goes into, because if we start looking at this customer journey map and we start creating these lines and okay, this is how this feeds in and this is how this works, we need to create a supportive structure to ensure it happens.
Yep.
Because if that box is checked and it didn't happen, then how many boxes are we going to have to check consistently to override that perception, right?
Yes.
Perception is malleable. We can change perception, but unfortunately, it's harder to change back than it is to change to the bad.
You, yes, absolutely. Once somebody has a negative perception of you, to be able to overcome that takes not only does it take consistent, like it's that time factor. You have to prove it over time. But if you have good perception up front, you've erased the whole time factor. People
Hmm.
will start talking good about you almost immediately. One of the things I from that last pop up I saw, there was a quote that I heard just recently. It says, "Our failures don't define us; they refine us."
Ooh.
And you're going to fail during your customer journey at some point in time. You will fail. The question is what are you going to do to refine your business at that point, rather than let that define you? Because you're not a failure,
Hmm.
right?
Yep. That's right. That's right. And you know, Clinton, he says this talk is blessing me on so many levels. And we are so glad, like we are so glad to be a blessing, to be a benefit to those out there, because when it comes to understanding how we can really create and generate incredible client lead conversions, it really goes back to understanding that client satisfaction starts by listening. That's what you said earlier.
Yes, absolutely.
And so as we kind of come to a close here, let's go back really quick and try and wrap this up and try to put a bow on this thing, because we have so many home care owners out there that are watching this that are ready to take that next step, right? To blow through their current plateau wherever they're at and start really generating incredible conversions. So, to begin with, how can we craft that irresistible client experience? It comes down to that journey map that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Understanding where that client flow is, how they get there, and then most importantly, that number four element, what is their continued support of your company? Because all of that is based on that first impression, that first value where you build that authority with them and delivering on that intended value.
Yeah.
And then lastly, handling those negative responses, because just like you said, at times we are going to fail. There will be a moment where we stumble, and it's not about falling, right? The
Yeah.
best thing about falling flat on your face is that you're at least going in the right direction, right? You're falling forward, right? That's
I
the
love
best
it.
thing about falling flat on your face.
Yes.
You're pointed in the right direction. So take a moment and really look into those negative elements and see what principles and what accountability you can put in there to bring it back to that first value moment where you're establishing that authority and then you're delivering on it. How can you consistently deliver on what you're talking about? Kyer, this has been incredible. I love it. I love it. And someone put up in the comments on the community the link to the sample client journey map. Oh my God. So
Fantastic.
good. I love it.
That's awesome.
It's so good. Go read that, download it. It's in the comments there. We'll make sure it's in the comments of the Home Care Ops page as well. Friend of the ActionCAST, Nick, says fail fast and fall forward.
Yes,
I love
absolutely.
that. So, Kyer, it's been an absolute pleasure. How can people get a? What's the best way people can continue learning from you and Home Care Pulse?
Honestly, the best way is our resource library, going to homecarepulse.com. And we have an incredible resource library that's on there. It'll have things like the customer journey, a whole thing around client experience and how to do that. I think there's 12 or 13 different articles on there. There's different podcasts. I think you recently did a podcast for us on our vision. And
Yeah,
um,
it was awesome. I I love Miriam. She's fantastic. She's so good at what
She
she does.
is. She's amazing. So I would encourage people, go immerse yourself. Customer journeys and customer satisfaction is not an event, it's an ongoing process. So
Hmm.
you're not going to get it right just one time. It's going to be an evolution. And I think you talked about in your operational parties, right?
Yeah.
That is fantastic. You don't spend 30 minutes, craft a few things, put it to work, and you're going to do great things. It'll change your business forever.
It really does. It really is amazing what you can do. And of course, if anybody's interested in learning more about the Action Leader Experience, because I know we've had several people comment asking what is the Action Leader Experience. So the Action Leader Experience is our monthly group coaching membership that Jessica and I put together to really help elevate owners and operators and teach them about the experience of operations and how they can grow and build their agency. And my personal passion is ending and eradicating owner exhaustion and operator burnout. So make sure to go over to homecareops.com. You can learn how you can join the waiting list, because it is we only open enrollment twice a year. The next one's not until August.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's a little bit away, but if you go to homecareops.com, join that waiting list. We actually just recently did a an open enrollment for a webinar that we co-hosted with Home Care Pulse, and those
Yeah.
people that were in there, and some of the people that were on that wait list were able to get in. So there's some really great exclusive content that you can have. So make sure and head over to homecareops.com, sign up for that waiting list for the Action Leader Experience. Man, it's just fantastic. We've had such great engagement from the community, from all the people watching. We really appreciate it. Kyer, you were fantastic. Gonna have to. We're gonna have to do a barbecue exchange.
I love it.
Like we got to do this.
I think we'll get this COVID thing over a little bit, get things open up, and I'm headed out. We'll spend a couple of days cooking. It'll be fun.
Oh my lord, it's fantastic. I'm cooking a whole hog next year. Uh,
Oh,
I'm having a group men's retreat, like a leadership summit, and I'm smoking a whole hog for it next year. I'm super excited about this.
I can't wait. We do some pit hogs before, and it is amazing. Good food.
Oh, it'll be my first one ever. I'm super excited about it.
Wow.
So anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much, Kyer. You have been fantastic. Make sure everybody go over to Home Care Pulse, look at that resource library, look at the Vision podcast. It really is incredible, the resources that you have. And above all, keep taking action, everybody.